This might be controversial. I'd just bin the word performance.
I think Roger Federer talks about how many points he's played in his career, and he only had a 51% win rate of each point.
I remember getting some feedback from a netball coach and basically saying that you're coming across, she was very professional, but you basically come across as a bit of a dick. And it really upset me. So I was trying really hard to help people, and you almost get to the summit and you look over from the summit expecting this beautiful vista that you've achieved. And I was looking at Lamford. It was awful.
Well, even when you just say the word penalty, it's pressure. Just pass it into the corner. Oh, I do that every day at training.
I mean, just go and kick that ball. That's for personal reasons, 8 weeks before the Olympic Games. And I think it wasn't because of results. It was the environment and my interactions with that environment that weren't healthy and good for me.
Some people become known for what they do, others for what they win. And then there's today's guest, the quietly influential coach who somehow ends up shaping the people who shape performance. He's worked everywhere from Olympic pathways to wheelchair sport, Premier League coaching development, school environments, and in all of them, his real superpower seems to be helping people understand themselves. How does someone build a career that crosses so many teams, personalities, and pressures? Let's find out from today's guest. Welcome to the podcast, Alex.
That was well good.
Thank you, mate. Good. So before we begin, get into the present day stuff, let's take us back. What were some of the early influences that nudged you into this sort of personal development, performance and coaching world?
Well, I think there's a few bits. It's all family based. My dad was into sport. So he liked cycling and karate when I was a kid. My granddad watched a lot of cricket, used to play. And I don't know how, but when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of sport on TV. So I used to do gymnastics and cycling and karate as a kid. And I was terrible at all of them. And I hated all of them. But my dad would always insist that I do some sort of exercise, which has stood me in good stead. So, but as I was sort of growing up, I used to watch a lot of old Eurosport, you never knew what was going to be on the TV. It'd say it's football, but it'd be track to Poland. So I used to watch all these sports, and often in German. And I just fascinated by trying to find out what was going on and how these sports worked. So I was just fascinated. I used to watch any sport wins. I could have named you world champions across multiple sports when I was a kid. NFL Blitz, Football Italia 90, I watched it all. I used to watch everything. And then I started playing rugby. I remember I wasn't very good at sport, and then I was walking around the change rooms at my school and I had the Interforum rugby go up. My name was on there. I got picked for a team. I didn't even put my name for it. And I guess, encouraged me to go and play some sports. I joined a local rugby club and then just started playing rugby, and then just loved sport even more. I had such good times with my mates. We were just messing about, playing rugby, and used to lose all the time. But I enjoyed it. And then played rugby for a long time, played a bit of county stuff, nothing special. And because of my interest in sport, I'd wanted to be a physio. My main wanted to be a physio, but I realised quite early on I was never working hard enough to get the grades for that. So I went to college, messed around a lot, didn't really do very well, and then went into uni. It's called the University of Bolton. Now, when I went there, it was the Bolton Institute of Higher Education. And I just love sport. I love learning all about it, the politics of it all, how the body works, how the mind works. And my undergrad was more around psychology. And I think to add more of a question in the helping people bit and enjoyment of people. So I guess sport is from my dad and just watching TV as a kid. But my granddad, he's from Jamaica, so a black guy from Jamaica, married a white woman from Yorkshire somewhere. My nan was a dinner lady, which is, you could argue, is a helping profession. My granddad, I guess, he was probably ED&I before he was popular. So he worked for the Afro-Caribbean National Artistic Centre in Nottingham and would campaign for black bus conductors having sort of culturally appropriate food in hospitals and stuff from way, way back. Mum's a social worker, aunt's a nurse. My sister now works in a residential home for kids. So all my family have always been like that. So I guess that must have rubbed off on me at some point looking back. So yeah, then went into sport. I was going to do sports psych, but at that time in my life, I wanted certainty. So I did finish my degree and I did a master's in physiology. And then I was going to try and do a PhD in physiology, but couldn't really get on one. And I thought, this S&C stuff sounds quite good. It sounds a bit less boring than doing blood lactates and stuff. So I was trying to get a job in that and couldn't for ages. Couldn't get a job. I did a lot of free work. So I was, what was I doing? I was interning or doing free work at Nottingham Rugby Club where I used to play. I was just email anybody that would listen and ringing people saying, can I come and do some free stuff? So I did some stuff in hockey, that kind of stuff. And then couldn't get a job. So I moved to Northampton and worked at Northampton College as a lecturer in health sciences, which is basically a teacher. So I did BTEC level 2 and 3 on a course that basically trains. It was like a precursor course for people who don't have to do nursing. So I did physiology a bit on that. And whilst I was doing my masters, and then we moved back to Nottingham, did loads of jobs, worked in a bar, Trent rugby team, uni rugby team for a bit. What else did I do? All sorts. Did a bit of PT, and then I said to myself, if I can't get a job in S&C, I'm just going to join the police. I thought 26 is quite a long time to not earn any money. I was losing money. I was skint. But then there's a company called Sport 981. They still exist in a different format, but they used to run lots of university sport and S&C programs across the country. So they gave me a job working in tennis. I've never seen little kids be so good at sport at tennis. So these I was working with the under 10s, 11s. These kids are unreal. They were training 34 hours a week, doing school in the middle of the day. Outrageous. Did that for a bit, and then but they said to me, do you want to go and work in Premier League football? I was like, yeah, of course I do. 100%. My dream job. So I went to work at Portsmouth for one season in the 2009-2010 season, where they got to the FA Cup final and relegated in the same year. I learned a lot about a lot of things. Before I get into that year. And after that, that's the early stages. And then I was always really passionate about what I did. And I used to get in arguments about things and say, disagree with people, or really try and push athletes. I think looking back, what I think it was is that I just wanted to help people. I think helping people achieve what they want to achieve is something I really quite like to do. And I think because I've had people in my life have me do that, so friends and family. So there's a turning point. So I had a few of the jobs in S&C, and then I left wheelchair basketball just before the Paralympic Games I was meant to go to. We might get into that a little bit later. And then I worked at an independent school. And having been through different what would be called high performance sport and performance environments into an independent school, I realized that there's some things that I was struggling with, how to really connect with people. I could connect with people and build rapport, but I thought something was missing. And especially in this school environment, it's very different. And I found it probably one of the hardest environments I've ever worked in. And it wasn't because of the kids. I just found the teaching staff were really different to me. So I did my ILM level 7. And it you have to do a lot of reflective work on that. You think about things differently and you look back on them. And I've always been really passionate about helping people. And what would often come across as frustration, or frustration and maybe being a little bit too forthright at times. It's because I want to help people get better and achieve what they want to achieve. That's what I really wanted to do. And I think at times I'd used tried to use science and S&C to do that. And go, look, this program's going to be really good for you. I've read all this stuff that I didn't need to read, and it's going to be really, really good. And I wanted them just to take my word for it because of the amount of care I had for them, what they wanted to do. And because of, the amount of time and effort I put into it, I thought, all right, that makes sense. But probably sometimes I could do really well, which is to build rapport. I wasn't intentional about it. I didn't sort of see it as one of my super strengths, even though it turns out it was. So that ILM bit was a turning point, and going, this is where actually, let's turn up the helping bit. Let's do that, because that's where I enjoy it the most. And I used to always really enjoy seeing people do what they want to do.
Yeah, nice. And in the early days of S&C, were there some sort of beginner mistakes or things that you can look back on, as you mentioned, reflection, that might make you laugh now or still make you laugh now?
Yeah, I think I thought I knew everything. I thought if I know as much as I can, I'll be dead good. So I did my undergrad, did my MSc, and I dabbled in a PhD for a bit. And I just I'd read everything, all of it, really rogue scientific articles, all sorts, just constantly. And I thought if I know it all, it'll be fine. Knowledge will get me everywhere. And looking back, going, it doesn't matter. People people don't care what you know, something like that. They need to know that you care, something like that. And that, if someone told me that 15 years ago, it would have helped. So I used to get really frustrated about things and could come across as a bit of a dick, because I just get frustrated that I really want to help people. And I thought what I was trying to get them to do was the best. If they didn't do it or really buzz off it, I'd take that quite personally. And I didn't need to. People are people. That's kind of makes me laugh now. I remember getting some feedback from a netball coach and basically saying, look, you're coming across, she was very professional, but you basically come across as a bit of a dick. And it really upset me, So I was trying really hard to help people. I was like trying really, really hard. And I really cared about what I did. But I was coming across as a right dick. That feedback was quite surprising. Really asked me to take that. It was really needed. So there's some things I guess that would make me laugh a little bit, kind of in an ironic.
Yeah. Well, when you do a bit more self-reflection, you can pick up and sort of almost see yourself in those moments. But at what point did working with people, and not just say the performance numbers and stuff, become sort of your calling? When did that sort of discover, what hooked you into that?
I think when I was at uni, I remember I had this moment where I was doing sports science and leisure studies. One of the lecturers went, "Who's doing some coaching now in addition to uni work?" And everyone put the hand up and I didn't. I was like, "That's what I meant to do." So I ran a local rugby club and just started, I said, can we do some coaching? Because I know rugby. So I ended up coaching their under eights. It was mega. It is still to this day the best coaching experience and the most fun I've ever had in sport. Unreal. Kids were lunatics and they just had so much fun. And I think it probably started some of my coaching philosophy, because you'd often see other coaches, you stand there, you do this, and picking up and putting them down. And because I was sometimes a bit worse for wear after being on a night out, but also just like I was 18, and I want these kids to have fun. I just went like, what's that stuff over our space? The fact that I gets a ball, what's he going to do? We'll run into it. What could you do? I'll go and stand over there. Helping them understand what it was. I remember we played a game at the end of the season. It's like mixed up all the teams from the age groups and some of the adults, and played a game. And these two kids in the team I was coaching, one kid ran outside swerve, straightened up, drew in an adult, did a 20-meter spin pass to his mate, who scored in the corner. And I hadn't taught them any of that. But because they had so much fun, they were practicing in their own time. And they just loved it, and they're just practicing stuff. And because we gave them the opportunities to practice and play. And after that, I was like, this coaching stuff's all right. Like seeing kids have so much fun. And I remember one of the parents, a guy called George, he wasn't allowed to come for a couple of weeks because being naughty at school. And it devastated him. He was like, I want to play. And he came one day, he stood behind the post while we were training, and he was so upset he couldn't play. And seeing the kid take that much meaning and significance from a game, from a sport, it's resonated, stuck with me. And I think if I had my time again, I'd probably stick at grassroots, because but I have to go through what I've done to really appreciate the power of sport at all levels, especially at grassroots, what it can do. And it's powerful. And it's what I got into as well. Like that's why I love sport. I love messing around with my mates. We all get into sport because it's fun.
And you think sport, if you have a sport as a kid, a team sport or even an individual sport, you can go anywhere in the world and you can find a group of friends or a group of people with a common interest. You don't have to be the best at it, but even at grassroots, you can go along and you can go the other side of the world and pick up a sport and have a community around you. Out of those early experiences there, you've mentioned tennis, a bit of football, a bit of netball. Which one surprised you the most, either in an amazing way or one that you perhaps came sort of a bit blindsided?
I think working in football surprised me the most, because I thought, I'm going to the Premier League. It's going to be the highest, techiest thing ever. It wasn't, because we were in administration, we didn't have any money. So we didn't have all the kit. We were based out of school. So we were in Eastleigh at school, King Abel's, I think it was. When we had cup games and stuff, if we were training on a Saturday, you'd have David James on one table. And on the other table, you've got a bunch of kids in a hockey game or something. And I was like, what? People are now like big money, and this kid's literally getting picked up by them in a minute. That really surprised me. We were in porter cabins basically. And you're playing like you could play in Liverpool at the weekend and got all these really high value, really great players. And lots of them played in the World Cup and went on to play in Serie A and all sorts. Have big careers. So that surprised me, what it took to sort of navigate that environment for me personally. And I had some personal stuff going on at the time, so it was very difficult to get through that. That really surprised me. And then netball on the other way, I went to Team Bath for the tennis. So I'd worked in tennis and went to Team Bath after football. I thought I went for the tennis, but it was half and half netball and tennis. I'll go netball, fine. What sport? I mean, the coaching in that is probably the best I've seen. The commitment of the athletes, physically how hard it is. When I first started there, I think when I was at Team Bath, all the coaches and everyone involved in netball wanted me to really engage in the sport and get me to love it. So I remember I walked in, and the first thing happened to me is this was back in the day, like 10 DVDs of international games, go and watch that. One of the first things I was told was, as an S&C coach, you don't deliver the warm-ups on the court. The players do self-led warm-ups, which was new to me. Having worked in rugby and football, that's not what we did. One of the first things they did was they took me on court. I remember someone took me on court and like threw the ball at me, made me do some things. And I was like, playing rugby, everything's in front of you. I was just all over the shop, turning, landing on different feet. I was in the bin. It was hard. So yeah, that netball surprised me with how passionate people are, the level of coaching, the detail of the coaching, and how hard that game is. It's really hard. And I was pleasantly surprised, but I actually got obsessed with it. I was like, how do we get people better with the sport? And one of them, when I started my PhD, was how do you help? It was all on one-on-ones, evasive maneuvers. So how do you support people physically to beat defenders? And it was because in netball, you could get people doing really quick stuff on change direction speed tests, but that's so far from transferring onto the sport. So how do we bridge that gap? So I loved working in netball. Brilliant. And we got to travel loads as well, which was good.
Yeah, nice. And you've moved through quite a few different high pressure systems, whether that's England hockey or UK SI and things like that, and into sort of perhaps your cohort management roles across the Premier League and things like that. What's your biggest turning point that sort of shaped how you show up now from back then?
I think the point is like the pressure that we might perceive in these environments is often, from a practitioner perspective, we put it on ourselves. So the example I give is I've worked as an S&C coach with coaches who are in much more high pressure scenarios. In 2013, we were working with England Netball Under-21s in preparation for their World Cup. The coach and assistant coach were under way more pressure than me. I'm an S&C coach. Like when I was working with wheelchair basketball, I was a team manager as well as the head of physical prep, I think it was called at the time. So I'd be sat on the bench doing water bottles and stuff. And the coach is making decisions. I'm just chilling. So for me, I got to the point where I realized there was no pressure. The coach is under pressure. I just want to make sure the water bottles are sorted and they're getting the towels on time and that the kit's washed before we get in. So for me, pressure, I think it's what's perceived as pressure and performance and what narrative we create for ourselves around our role in that. So I used to think, I'm an S&C coach, I'm high performance, pressure. Like, no, mate, you're wandering around getting people to do gym programs in essence. That's not pressure, that's not performance. Like, relax. The people that really experience and engage the pressure are the athletes and the coaches, not me. I think that was a big turning point for me, like when I could try and relax. And I still put pressure on myself to try and not be terrible at things I do, but that bigger, greater pressure, I don't really take that on as much anymore because I don't have to do that. I don't have to go out. And working as a performance lifestyle coach for a bit, when you speak to athletes in a different context from S&C, and you sit with them one-on-one in different contexts and you listen to what they go through to be an elite athlete, being constantly evaluated either explicitly through coaching or through performance and results. I haven't got to do that. My job is infinitely easier than what they have to do. And like you get players now that are like coaches or like athletes that go, oh yeah, they only got a bronze at the Olympic. They only got a bronze. And I remember speaking to an athlete and he'd been to a few games and he'd like finished like 4th and 5th and he was devastated. It was weird. I said to him, you're devastated with that. Been to a few Olympic games, you've been a world champ or something, you only finished 4th and 5th. Mate, I haven't been to a games. Couldn't get near it. But the expectations they have and the pressure they have is much more obvious and tangible than I would have as a practitioner. So I think the turning point for me is that there is no pressure. And also when I was at wheelchair basketball, I left, I have to say, I left for personal reasons 8 weeks before the Olympic Games. And I think it wasn't because of results. It was the environment and my interactions with that environment that weren't healthy and good for me. And I think that's when I started to realize that like it can be performance and pressure if you want it to be, but then it doesn't have to be either. And I was talking to someone yesterday and they were talking about penalty kicks. Like pro footballers went, it's a 12-yard pass into a corner, or you can call it a penalty. But what you call it changes everything. I thought that's pretty insightful.
Well, even when you just say the word penalty, it's pressure. Just pass it into the corner. Oh, I do that every day at training.
I mean, just go and kick that ball and make sure that geezer or the girl in the goal doesn't get it.
Yeah. Which is possibly what you might have done with your under 8s at grassroots. Thing is, rather than Tommy, you stand there, Billy, you stand there, now pass like this to there, you've just gone, right, what's this here? Space. Okay, and if he's running through there, I could probably go and stand there. You're allowing them to make their own decisions and start to read the game a little bit, rather than having that pressure there, isn't it?
I think it comes down to what you value in sport and what sport is to you as an individual, because it's a really good point, actually, because I hear a lot about elite and performance and academies, and people put elite in front of things. I don't know why. validation, affirmation, wanting to do something. I might have done that when I was younger as well, but you don't need to, because you just don't. Like, sport's fun. And for me, sports about development. Like, it helps you, it adds to your life. It adds value and richness to your life through experiences and dynamics that you won't necessarily get at work or in other ways and other elements of your life. So it can be really fun. So sport to me is about learning and developing and enjoying yourself. And now I'm learning, even at the top level, like, there should be opportunity for that. When there's money, and I've got a phrase, like, if it's not Sky Sports News, it's probably not that important. Like, unless you need it to be, because the pressure isn't on. Like, if you're not getting watched by 7 million people every week, like, we can probably relax. Because when you step into a stadium and there's people shouting at you, that becomes more visceral and more real. But I remember when I was at Pompey, we'd be losing every week and, like, got 20,000 people shouting at the gaffer, people trying to get over the back of the dugout from me to get to the manager. That's more tangible pressure than just thinking, I need my under 8s to win this week, or I want my school to have a 100% record this year. That's a narrative that we tell ourselves. You don't need to put that on. You don't have to have that. I believe it's a choice. I mean, remember working at school, and some kid went, we're not doing very well. Why not? We need to have a better win ratio. So we said to them, what do you want the win ratio to be? He went 75%. And why? I don't know, sounds good. And I've been told many times at schools how important winning is. And I don't know what my stats are, but I think with most of the sports I've been involved in over the years, I think I've lost more games than I've won. No, I haven't lost them. I've been involved with teams that lose that have lost. I've been on tours, international tours we've lost. We've relegated from the Premier League. All sorts. I also think if you can be, let's say if you're a Premier League footballer, for example, and you play over the next 5 years for Brighton, Bournemouth, Fulham, for example, you might have a career in the Premier League, finish below the top 10 for 3 to 5 years, and have a losing record as a manager or as a coach. Or a manager or as a player, but still be a multimillionaire and had a great career. But you haven't really won that much. You might never win the FA Cup. Well, what does that mean? If winning is important and you spend most of your time losing as a professional, does that mean you had a good career? I personally dispute that, but that's just my opinion.
And coming back to the football there as well, there was that, I think Paul Scholes was an interview, and he said, I always turned up to training and wanted to have my best training session because I wanted to be on the team sheet for Saturday. And this was, and some of the colleagues or people that was talking to him was like, but you would be our first pick. He said, no, I never saw myself as a first pick. I just really had to train hard on whatever day, Tuesday or Monday, to make it really hard for the gaffer not to pick me at the weekend. And you're like, again, that's just changing the narrative from, doesn't matter how I perform, as long as I perform in training, I'm putting myself in the best chance. And then you've spoken about your win rate. I think Roger Federer talks about how many points he's played in his career, and he only had a 51% win rate of each point. And I think he's played something like 15,000 points or something like that. And you think, you get up each time and he says, this point is the most important point of my life at this moment in time. As soon as it's gone, it's nothing. I need to focus on to the next one. And breaking those barriers down, I think, isn't it? That you can put it in the most simplest format rather than you say this elite performance bubble up here. It's just down nice and low.
Language, context, really important, how we frame things, to either make our lives easier for us or to make sense of the world. Because ultimately, this world is infinitely complex and the universe is also complex. And we don't know how the brain works, we don't know what's in space, and we don't know what's at the bottom of the sea. So we're quite relatively unevolved creatures trying to make sense of the universe, and we'll find any way to make it work. And it wasn't that long ago that we would kill chickens to make sure the sun comes up. And in 200 years' time, what will we look back on and go, can you believe we used to do that as a species? It's nuts. And I think, yeah, how we frame things to get through it. So, like, choice of narrative. So if I want this to be elite, if I want this to be winning is important. Why? Why is that important? Or if you've got someone that's really good at a really good performer going, actually, I don't believe that I'm on the first on the team sheet. Why? And it's always being curious as to why we do what we do and why we call things what we call things. And there's a philosophical term about vagueness. Moral vagueness. And if you ask 10 people, different people, what elite is, or what high performance is, we'll get 10 different answers. If I go, right, gold medalist in the Olympic gymnastics versus Erling Haaland, who's more high performance, who's more elite? Because they might have achieved things in different sports, but then is elite context specific or is it domain specific? Can we go across domains? what does it mean? And I have seen this conversation with some of my friends and colleagues. They got some real good thoughts and theories on it. And I'm not saying I'm right and they're wrong, but what we tell ourselves about a thing is important, and how we frame it is important. Is it important? I think it explains things. Like you can look at the language someone uses and the frame they put on things. When you see that and you understand, you can ask why and just interrogate that and refute it a little bit.
And when did the penny drop for you from like your S&C or strength and conditioning days where you're sort of building the athlete, as it were, to I'm now here to build sort of people and environments? When did that sort of drop for you?
It never really dropped. It just sort of like evolved. It moved. There's a couple of times when we were working in S&C and that. I moved to Paralympic into like Paralympic sport because it was intriguing to me. I felt like sometimes S&C can be quite reductionist in that we're trying to solve a problem rather than ask some questions. I think philosophy asks questions and science solves problems. So I felt we could ask more questions about what we do. And when we solve a problem, the problem that we see is a problem that we create, and then we frame problems in a way that suits our narratives and what we're currently looking at. So there's a few things that happen. I was like, are we really trying to solve this problem? I don't think it's a problem. I think we could answer this question: like, how do we better fit athletes for wheelchairs? Rather than just using a tape measure on a school NCI, can we like do some food emotion analysis or something like that? That was too hard. Well, I think it's getting quite boring. And also, like, I was pretty burnt out from sport. I burnt myself out. I wasn't interacting with elite sport very well. So I thought I'll take a cushy one at this private school, which was so far from cushy. Yeah, maybe like, if I was gonna, there was a point at which I realised that I really miss working in sport, because I miss working with people that there was some kind of alignment or coming together of people, of like a convergence behind a shared desire or wish. And I missed that. I missed the facade or the of that. So I think going and doing my ILM to help me work better and understand people more in that environment, and then going, right, well, actually, I don't want to go back into S&C because I enjoy it still now, but I'm a bit bored of it. I go and work with people in sport, so I'm a performance lifestyle coach. So it wasn't really a moment. It was just, it was a gradual thing, I think.
Well, would it be then sort of your curiosity that you've had in terms of, here I am, I've done this, and like you, again, if people are putting stuff up on a pedestal or up there, when you actually achieve that, you're like, well, actually, it doesn't seem this great. I've put it up there, and you go, well, actually, this bit only solves this, but now I see this little bit. How do I solve that? And you sort of naturally evolve on this chain. And I think we all go on a little bit of a journey our own selves anyway, and we naturally gravitate. And sometimes when you get burnt out or you don't feel that you fit in anymore, it's obviously a deeper calling, or your subconscious might know you need to achieve something else and it's not the right thing for you to do. It's not aligned with your values or energies and things like that. What do you think has been the time that you're now sort of supporting people? What's the sort of hardest lessons you've had to learn, and what are some of the funny mistakes you've made along the way with supporting people?
To go back a bit, if that's all right. I think you talk about curiosity. I am a bit curious, but I think I seek novelty as well. I think seek novelty and new things that sort of bring me along this journey. And I see where the energy is and what's going on, and I think that's sort of what sort of spurs one a little bit to do different things. And I think with the alignment of values and stuff, values are an interesting thing because they're self-created. And so I'm never really sure what my values are. I try and think about what's important to me. And values change and things change. Like having a kid changed me. The moments that change you. Well, I don't know if they changed me, or maybe I'm more aware of something. Probably driven me on a little bit. I do seek novelty and new things. Yeah, so that's that. And then some of my hardest lessons, work isn't that important. Work doesn't have to be that important. I used to tie a lot of my identity to work and what I did in my title, and it was ridiculous. But I think it points to where I was at in my life and what I needed. And I think something else I've learned along the way is labels and how we can reduce people to a certain set of labels to make our life easier for ourselves. So I remember working at Team Back, and there's a lady, she was an admin and worked in reception, always sending me these emails that were really annoying me. And I actually ended up being quite rude. Like, so she'd ask me about these emails, and I just ignore her, which is really bad. But I was too busy being performance because I'm a performance guy. This summer's ridiculous. And we had a team day out, and then this lady said, when people don't respond to my emails or get back to me, it wasn't pointed at me, it was just a general thing. It really frustrates me because I'm really trying to do my job to support the athletes. I need this information to support the athletes and to do my job. And I just went, I can't do my job at really wants. I like to support athletes too. And that was a penny drop in the moment. I was like, oh, shit, I'm a dick. And then me and this person and the rest of the team, we got on really well after that because I was like, I'm just being an idiot. I'm just bigging myself up, making myself out to be better than I am. And we're always trying to do the same thing. We always want to try and not be awful at our jobs and try and help people. Not all of that's what people are. And that was a penny drop in the moment for me going, oh my word. It's like, that's it. Like, I used to be of the opinion, I don't care how nice you are as a person as long as you're good at your job. And now I'm not. I don't really care how good you're at your job as long as you're trying to do the right thing. You can get a long way with that. That was a bit some of the how I tied my identity and my self-worth to my job. But once I remember when I'd always wanted, I set myself a goal of working with a team and going to major games, whether it's Commonwealth, Paralympics, Olympics. When I got the job and I knew I had my kit and everything going to the Paralympics, and I was like, this doesn't feel like I thought it was going to feel. Like, this doesn't feel good. I feel really bad about many things. I'm not enjoying myself. I'm not having fun at all. And it was almost like you're climbing this mountain that you put in front of yourself. There's no mountain to climb. But I was like, I'm working really hard to try and get this. And I've got this job, which I think for me, it wasn't a big job or well paid, but it meant a lot to me at the time. And you almost get to the summit and you look over from the summit, expecting this beautiful vista that you've achieved. And I was looking over Lamphur. It was awful. Didn't feel good about anybody. Like, this is ridiculous. I don't feel good. I'm having fun. I was having the complete opposite of fun. So yeah, work isn't that important. What we tell ourselves about work and how we align our identity and who we are is more important. And there's way more worth to any of us than that job. And it can be quite difficult to see past that when where we live, what you buy, what you show is so important. And you need to have a good job to live, just to basically live, let alone do all the things that you think you should do to show that you're a success. Like when we talk about like, well, what is coaching? What is winning in the role of it? What is success? These are questions that, you take a serial winner, like how many, I won a gold medal. How many do you want? What's success? Because you might argue that getting to games is success or getting an Olympic medal is success. As someone that's never been that good at sport, well, I don't have any of that. So therefore, can I be successful? I haven't hung around teams that win that much. But I've been around some of the best coaches in the world, some of the best players in the world, but we didn't win loads of stuff. I might be the common denominator in that. But so what does that mean, that I haven't had a successful career? And who defines that? Which are all questions. And I don't think you can have answers to it, but exploring those questions and delve into those questions, I think, can give us a bit more of an understanding of what is good in life for us. Because I think we're all searching for the good. Again, what good is different to different people, but we're all searching to try and find the good. And I think what I try and do now is help people find the good. So like, what's your job? What do you do? You're working in sport. What's going to make you happy? What are some of the good things that you want out of this for you and for your family and for those around you and for the people you work with? And how can we help you to get that? How can you make this job or your career a sustainable part of your life that sustains you and your family and is sustainable in the long term? Because you hear stories about people working in sport getting, like me getting, I wasn't officially burnt out, but I'd had enough at one point. I might have been burnt out, I don't know. But if I'd have done things a little bit differently with what I know now, way more relaxed.
Yeah.
I'd be way more relaxed.
And working across such a variety of sports and athletes and things like that, how has that sort of changed your philosophy on progress and human performance? I know we've just touched a little bit on it there.
So I have a phrase, I think I invented it myself. It's like, people are people wherever you go, and I am me wherever I go. To a greater or lesser extent, just go after sort of similar things. The same things are going to similar things are going to excite me and piss me off wherever I go. So understanding that. So if I go into example, every sport I go into, I always get interested in sport. Because if you're working with people that work in sport full time, they're probably quite passionate about the sport they picked. So if you want to get on board with them and get on board, like know this, know the culture, know the language, know some of the better players, and get involved. Like in netball, back when I was there, they didn't talk about jumping; they used to talk about elevation. They talk about step changes. They have certain words for certain things. So you've got to pick that up. When you work in football now, there's certain phrases like top man, not having you, or there's just certain phrases that you use. And even in football now, like, oh, how was that? If they go, it's okay, it's all right. That's often football phrase. So that's awful. Don't ever do that again. But picking up the language and lingo is really, really important. And then not doing that from a whole sport perspective, but individuals. What language do you use? What metaphors do you use? What's your body language like? So for me, it's like the common denominator in my world is people. If you want to support people doing what they want to do or getting where they want to get to, it's physically or on the pitch or off the pitch. Engaging with them, understanding what makes them tick, the language they use, what's important to them. That's the biggest thing. I think that's my biggest learning, because across the sports, that's it. And across all the sports I've worked with, whether it's athletes or coaches, whoever it is, you step out of the professional environment, we all do the same sort of stuff. We all have the same, like similar desires, similar needs, like Maslow, all that type of stuff. It's not that different. I can't speak too much to other cultures like outside of the UK, but in the UK, that's what my experience is.
And if we move on to like the present day, if we'd met, say, a celebration party for one of the teams winning, and I asked the one time that you might win, the common denominator that you're winning, and I asked you what you actually do, how would you describe what you do?
Coach and people and practitioner developments. What I currently do, so coach development, we work with coaches to help, work with them to get what they want out of their coaching, to help players have better experiences and get where the players want to get to. To do a bit of that. I help certain organizations design learning programs and events for coaches on coach development programs. I also support coach developers as well. So I sort of coach develop as well. I do a bit of mentoring. I still do a bit of PT, because it's not as cognitively demanding as some of my other stuff. So yeah, I find it really difficult actually to describe what I do in short terms, but I guess it's just helping. Work, not helping, because I can't decide if I'm helping or not. It's not for me to decide. I work with people, if they'll have me, to help them achieve what they want out of their life and their job, and often in a professional context. What I try and do is, like, Socrates spoke about either being a gadfly or a midwife. So gadfly apparently is really annoying, like poking and prodding and trying to get to and refute and get to the bottom of it. Or you can be a midwife and help someone birth ideas. So that's kind of what I do in one-on-one situations, group situations, and it varies a bit. But so I guess personal group coaching. That is really not concise, but that's what I've got.
But then it's sometimes very difficult when you've gone through having your pure identity and you've gone through your own evolution to now having this bubble of identities depending on which hat, or I liken it to a mechanic. A good mechanic knows which tool to use to get the car to run, like you were saying there with the midwife, to birth ideas. Rather than be a hammer expert or a spanner expert, you can only use a spanner or a hammer. You're limited by either your titles or your identity. I think that sums you up quite nicely. You're there to facilitate change in people.
And it's interesting on identities, around like, what are they? Do you have, and like, which theory of personality do you look at? And I know someone who would say, like, we are just like an awareness of the experience we're having. That's all we are, and we're nothing else. Everything else comes after that. So all our identities, our labels, are what we put on ourselves, what other people put on us. They're all arbitrary. Yeah, depending on your standpoint, depends on how you see yourself. But yeah, people do like to know what I do. So if they want to like work with me or employ me, like, oh, what do you do? I go, well, this is kind of it. And they go, well, can you be a bit clear on that? I'm saying, quite difficult. Can do is, once people have worked with me or engaged with me, they get an idea of how it feels and what it's like. Again, when I first started in S&C, it was like 2007, 8. No one knew what it was. It was quite a new thing. Oh, yeah, I'm S&C coach. What's that like? It's like PT. I'm like, well, kind of, but kind of different. But now everyone knows what an S&C coach is. Everybody knows. Like, Instagram's covered in it, and I'm a bit annoyed because now I'm not in it. And then they go, well, what do you do? I'm a coach developer, or I'm a professional coach. What's that? And I've got to explain that. So I seem to like jump into jobs that need explaining.
You're on the crest of the wave.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I was. But if I said S&C coach now, I don't have to explain what it is. Everyone knows what it is. Like, almost exclusively, everyone knows what it is. And I'm like, but what do you actually do? This is what I do. I can't explain it. You'll get it. If you have a go, you'll get it.
What does the phrase energetically supporting people in teams look like in real life for you? And can you sort of paint a picture of what this energy is and in a sort of day-to-day sense for us? And where did it come about?
So energetic, I'm quite emotional. For better or worse, quite emotional, quite passionate. So if you see me at work, I'm normally, I'm talking to people, I'm engaging, I'm around the place, and people like phrase getting amongst it. Yeah, and I might be cracking jokes, or I might be humor, or I might be just like disagreeing with somebody. If I'm at home, I'm just laying down, not really doing much. So energetically, so I really like working with people and to match energies or to find what energizes the person. So they're like, what are you excited about? This. I'll meet you there, and use our energy, and we'll go and chase this thing together. Let me know how I can help, and we'll go and get it. So that's how it feels. It's like I will try and match your energy or find what you get energetic about, because everyone gets excited about something. So as an example, one of my icebreakers that I use is like, what's your favorite biscuit? And it doesn't kick off, but people get energetic about it and disagree about something in a reasonably safe way. And so you're right. When I see someone go, right, I think digestives are the best, or I think pink wafers are the best. Now, I wouldn't talk to either of those people outside of a work environment for those biscuit choices. And if they disagree, you can see how, if someone gets passionate about something, how they might respond, or how they might be in a high passion, high end situation. So I'll often use provocative questions or scenarios to get to see how people respond and what they're energetic about. When people get their heightened emotions, it means that the thing they're talking about is quite important to them. All right, that's important. Let's work with that, because that's obviously quite important to you. We can move forward with that. And if it's teams or if it's individuals, I do one-to-one executive coaching, coach development. So that would be conversations like this, going into clubs or working with young practitioners and finding out what's important to them, what they're struggling with, what they might want support with. So it might be, right, I'm struggling with this. How can we work together to create some solutions for that? I won't normally come up with solutions. We'll work with them to do it. Or I really love doing this. How can I do more of it? How do I really accelerate these skills? And then in teams, often what I find myself doing if I'm working in a team in a professional environment is, how do you sort of create environments and places of work where people can communicate really well, can get on board with each other and get where they want to get to. Because often in teams, it's like, what are the relationships like? What's the communication like? How clear are people on what they're going after? And then in groups, as this group, a learning group, what we're going after collectively, how do you want to be to support each other's learning? And often when you've got like a learning group versus a team at work, they're quite different. How they come together and what they're going after can be quite different. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question about what it would look like. That's what coming out of my face.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. It's perfect. And you've obviously got a blend of relationship building skills, reflective practice skills, looking at sort of designing and the high performance coaching. How do all of these come together when you say we're back in sort of your Premier League coaching role days and leading things like that? Because as you said, there seems to be a lot of money up front, but actually if you're still in the porter cabin and having the school kids picking up, how have you managed to reflect on some of that?
Like, I remember when I was working in football, I remember there's a player and I asked him to do something and they basically told me to F off. And I told him to F off, back off. I'm not taking this. This is ridiculous. And I went, that's not me. That's not me. So then I went and read a book on coaching and wrote my philosophy and figured out when I was working in tennis and it was going, what was I doing? What was I about? And so a lot of this stuff comes back to what's important to you? How do you want to show up to work, to show up day to day? What impact do you want to have? What experiences have you got and what you're going to do with that? And then help that guide your practice. So I think what I've done in the past is try to be someone that I'm not, or try to mold to an environment, or if someone's done well in an environment, try and be more like them. And I think pure authenticity is difficult to do, but trying to connect with or live close to things that are important to you, that have meaning to you, helps you get through a lot of things. So I think that's how I try and work. That's the takeaway. And even in if I'm working in learning design, I'm all about emotions, and can you regulate your own emotions and attend to emotions in others? That's my bias. So when I'm designing learning stuff, it's like, how do we make that immersive so people feel something? And how do we work with that, what they're feeling it? And then how do we make it safe or appropriate for them to explore and experiment in those stretch scenarios and those, not panic, but those stretch and high pressure scenarios. Yeah, but so it's leaning into who you are, acceptance is big, like accept who you are, what's important to you, how you want to be. And if you can get to that point, I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm working on it. Like, but I'm aware that I probably need to accept who I am and what is good about me and also all my flaws. It's helpful. And then when I'm working one-to-one with another person, I don't judge them because I've got flaws. You've got flaws. I've got strengths. You've got strengths. I can't judge you for being the same as me because ultimately we're all humans and we've all got good and bad about it. So I can't judge you because I do things that aren't great or they're great.
And you seem like you've got quite a unique skill set about the way that you can combine sort of lived experiences with then facilitating some change in people. You've worked closely, as you say, with coaches, leaders, high performers. What sort of one quirk or a pattern that you might see time and time again that always sort of makes you smile at the beginning? Other than the biscuit icebreaker.
What's your favourite biscuit, by the way?
I'd probably go a hobnob.
Plain or?
Plain hobnob, yeah.
Yeah, choice. But yeah, we'll go with it. Apparently it's good at dunk. Do you have it with tea?
No, I don't have it with tea now. I don't drink tea or coffee. No caffeine.
Can you see my response to that? Like, I'm learning about you and I'm going, because I love coffee, so you don't drink coffee. So then you get, interesting.
Yeah.
So then, yeah. So I think one of the things that the quirk always is, and it's not mine, it's something that's one, it's like when you're working with someone, if someone comes to you with a problem or wants something they want to explore with you, generally what they come with is not the issue. It's something a couple of layers down, or that's the bit they feel they can talk to you about. And if you talk to that, you're talking to something that is not that important. Like ask a few questions, understand it more, and then get into it. That's generally the thing. I do it myself. I have coaching supervision, and I turn up thinking I want to talk about this, and that's not the thing I'm talking about. And even when I think that I'm not doing that, I am. And someone would say that thinking is a social exercise. Talk about thinking partners and critical friends. Like it's useful because we can't ask ourselves questions on our own. So even if I think I've asked myself all these questions, I'll come in thinking, right, on my supervisor session, I nailed it. I know what I'm going to talk about. And my supervisor asked me 2 or 3 questions. I'm like, oh, right, this is completely different. But it feels like I'm talking about the right thing.
So let's zoom out a little bit now. So obviously you're 20 plus years coaching, developing, supporting and guiding. What's one myth about performance or progress you wish you could maybe retire or send back to the dugouts or the change rooms forever?
This might be controversial. I'd just bin the word performance. I'd get rid of it. I'd say, if you want to talk about high performance or performance, think of a different word or a series of words that explains what it is you're doing. Because it's such a vague concept. And there's a word, I can't remember what it was, which is like there's a phrase that doesn't really have any meaning. When we talk about performance, well, what is that? And an example would be, I often hear the phrase performance planning. I've never known anyone, or very few people, that plan to do a bad job. So what's performance planning? That's just planning. So why is the word performance in there? What does it mean to the people that have put that in there? What is it? So I think I just bin the word like that. We could get rid of the word performance and come up with something different. People might disagree with me, but you can still do all the same things, but just use a different word. Like when people go, oh, that's really interesting. I would often say, a friend of mine got me onto this. So, right, okay. When we say interesting, what do you really mean? Because interesting only means I think it's really good. They disagree with you, it's shit. Not many people use the word interesting in its most sincere form. So like, oh, it's really interesting you say that. Use a different word apart from interesting. Oh, we need to have more performance, high performance, elite performance, whatever it is. What do you mean by performance? Performance behaviors. What are they in this context? Name that and we can work with it. Stop telling about performance. It kills me.
And what's one piece of advice that your younger self needed to hear about your career, the people, the pressure, or even just pacing yourself through a long journey that you've been on so far?
Do something different.
Do something different.
Yeah.
Which you've done quite a lot of doing things differently.
If I had my time again, I'd go into psychology or philosophy or counselling. I'd go into that. I think so. Based on that, my advice would be is where you can, like be true to yourself, like chase what you want to go after. And it's hard because sometimes it's people we can't access all of ourselves because of stress we're going through, life, things like that. But I think that the advice I give to myself was like, is where you can. Give yourself a break. Be kind to yourself. Like getting through the world isn't in our section of the world. It's easier than others, but even still, like we have probably more existential crisis in the Western world than anywhere else. So yeah, chill out. Be kind to yourself. Take some time to breathe. Go outside. Do things you enjoy. Spend as much time having fun and things that fulfill you as you can. Because deathbed test, I can guarantee you this. I'm never going to be laying down about tonight going, I wish I'd done more work or sent more emails. I'm never saying that. I might say, I wish I'd have been a bit more patient with my son, or like done more mountain biking, or comb my hair more often when I had the chance. That's what I might wish, but I'm never going to wish to do more work. So.
And if somebody's listening to this now thinking they've sort of in that S&C world or in their own little world, in their own niche, and thinking, how do I break out? What do I do? What were some of the simplest things that somebody could do without knowing the full context of why or what they want to do, but they know what they're doing isn't aligned with them? What would be some of the simplest, maybe 2 or 3 things that they could start doing today to work out that next step?
So I think if you, there'll be 2 bits that I'm interpreting from that, which is, one is if you want to get a job in S&C and where you want to go with it. Is that part of it?
Yeah, some of it. Yeah, if we use that, but yeah, or
I mean,
to other things.
Yeah, I'll start with that and then go on to like the values bit of it. So that is just like, it's really hard. And networking, I hate the term, but like connecting with people, being prepared to do free stuff if you can. And that's the challenge with it. Like, a lot of sports science jobs, it requires you to have some sort of family backing or the acceptance of you're going to be poor for a bit. Like, I was in debt when I was trying to be an S&C coach. I had no money. It's not that well paid in the grand scheme of things, and you have to do it for free for a bit. You have to network and put yourself around there and be willing to do loads of stuff. Like, doing a degree and doing a master's degree is not enough to get into S&C. It's just not enough. You have to have something else about you. And then to figure out the next steps or something that I don't know, to help you make decisions. There's the peak experience thing. So if you pick like a time, the most exciting time, or the happiest you've ever been, or the most buzzing you ever were, where were you? Who were you with? How did you feel? What was, like, get into quite a lot of detail about that moment in time, because you can start picking out what's important to you. Like, I was with friends and family. Like, how do those friends and family make you feel? Or safe, connected, you tell jokes all the time. Okay, and when you felt good, why did you feel good? Oh, because we'd all achieved this thing together. So if you ask those questions and really sit down and go and ask, and what else, and what else, and what else, you can get, okay. Then once you've asked yourself what else about 100 times in like that peak experience bit, what's at the bottom of it? All right, so having a job or living my life where I can access these things regularly. And if you flip it and go, right, what are some of the worst times I've ever had? And some, I'd probably do that. I'm quite pessimistic. I'd go, when did I hate my life the most? What was going on for me? Well, I wasn't talking to anyone. I wasn't seeing my mates. It's probably the winter. I couldn't exercise, blah, 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 blah. Right, avoid that. Do the flip of that, and that'll get you where you want to go. So, yeah, peak experience or like troughs, and going, that can help you make decisions. And it's also not a bad reflective tool. You might want to do 2 or 3 like really happy times. You can take it from like now, when you were a kid, what do you enjoy doing? Because sometimes the things that we have the most fun doing when we were a kid, we stop doing. I remember speaking to a guy. Well, what do you do for fun? He goes, I don't do anything. What did you do when you were a kid? Warhammer. Oh, what stops you playing Warhammer then? I don't know. Go on then. Go and do some Warhammer. Why would you stop? Like, we stop. Life becomes, probably around secondary school, life becomes really boring. Like, relatively, like primary school. I love my kid. Like, I used to love primary school. You can learn. You're having fun. You're learning. You're experiencing new things. It's a great learning environment. But then we go, oh, no, I can't do that anymore. So, yeah, have fun. Engage in what makes you who you are, as long as it's safe and like not weird. And then have people help you do that. Like, it's a social thing. So I've got friends and they help me, and I help my wife. Like, remember, this is what you enjoy. Go and do the thing you enjoy. Don't stop doing that. You've got a choice between doing work or doing something you enjoy. Where you can try and do the thing you enjoy, because work is always going to be there. Like, especially the way that our generation, you're going to have to work to about 90. Work's going to be there. So if you're able to move and you like being physically active, and you make the most of it while you can, because I'd rather work when I'm 70 when I can't be physically active than work, man. Yeah. And I already work too much for my own life.
And what's next for you? Don't know.
So I'm playing around with whether I get a full-time job. I'm a consultant at the minute, so I don't work for anyone officially. I'm a consultant, self-employed. Whether I get a full-time job, whether I take a step and go, right, I'm just going to build my own coach development and one-to-one executive coaching business, which is quite scary for me. I quite like financial security and knowing what's coming in month by month. So yeah, I don't know. I thought I knew, and I never know. And one of my strengths is I'm happy to sort of like I like opportunities, and I'll chase an opportunity down. but it's knowing when to stick and when to twist. I'm always happy to twist. So I don't know what are the minutes. I can tell you what's happened in the next like 2 or 3 months until like after Christmas, after that.
But no idea.
I don't like being like that, but this is where I find myself.
Well, I've got a book on my reading list. It's called The Dip by Seth Godin, and it talks about from here to there, and you're coming down into the dip, and it's knowing when to quit or when to stick, and what are the key moments. So I'm looking forward to having that, and that might be when you're in the dip. They talk about being hard at certain points, and if you get past it, you know it might be easier because most people will quit or leave at that difficult point at the dip before they end up and ascend up.
It's an interesting one because I feel like we live, like when things are difficult, I always thought if it's hard, it must be worth doing. But that's bitten me quite a few times when I put myself in a hole for no real reason. And I think we have a pervasive grind culture at the minute in this side of the world. Like if you want to do something, do it loads and do it hard and do it for ages. And I'm like, it's a hard one though, isn't it? Like to know when and like what information is required. But that's why if you have someone that can work through that with you, that can be a bit easier to have you test that, refute that.
Yeah. From those first steps into strength and conditioning to joining the Premier League and coaching development teams to Olympic pathways and far beyond helping people. It's been brilliant hearing your story, the wins, the lessons, and the human that's behind it all. Alex, thank you so much for joining us on 360 Life Stories.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.